This will be my first Marvel Rivals session, so that this
Well, I
will be
hope it turns
exciting.
out good for you.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Same goes to you as well. So what got you? I know what got you initially interested in Overwatch coaching, but obviously that's transition to Marvel Rivals. So I guess what are you looking to get out of the session?
I don't. I guess training or small exercises so
Yeah,
that maybe not overall game knowledge, but smaller things I can do
yeah,
where I can apply it to the bigger game.
got it.
Uh, in Overwatch, I was an Ash main. I did aim labs, or I still do aim labs. I'm nearly to 100 hours. I'm at 80. With Ash, it was just, go high ground, point and click. And with
Yeah,
Marvel Rivals, I love Wolverine. So going back to Overwatch, I loved the idea of Genji, but I just was never good at with Genji.
right,
But
right.
with Wolverine, I can get in there, I can pull people out, I can just non-stop action. That's why I
Yeah,
like Wolverine.
yep, yep.
And it's a different, melee versus point and click. Now, to fall back in case Wolverine's not working, I try Punisher and then
Yep.
even Hella. So,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I've got stuff prepared for all of the above, so
okay,
we'll have whatever you want to look at today. I think
sure.
kind of what you talked about is really important, where it feels like the accessibility of some of those combo melee oriented characters just feels a lot better than it does in Overwatch, and I think that's definitely true. I think it's going to be your cup of tea. Do you prefer the uptime? Do you prefer the accessibility, or do you prefer the strategical side of Genji or whatever? But with Wolverine, you're right. Like there's you don't always have to be perfect with your combos to do things, right? Like there's just so much more to be doing in the meantime, and I think that's very appealing. So you were gold at the time of the form with Ash, and obviously
All right.
that changes with rivals and so on. But I want to hear why initially you liked Ash in Overwatch,
Okay.
why you moved on to Marvel Rivals and decided to stick with Marvel Rivals. I think you kind of touched on it there briefly. And then what your rank spectrum has looked like with Rivals. I know it's a lot to unpack. So let's start with Ash. Why initially
Yeah.
Ash?
Well, initially, Ash, I just point and click. I do feel I have a good aim, generally good aim. I do think Aim Labs helps me out a little bit. I tried Kovacs and all that stuff, and the response was I do have decent aim. So I
Yes.
like, okay, let me stick with something that's in my wheelhouse,
Yeah.
knowing that I can rank up. And I think I finished Plat 3. So it
Okay.
was weird. I went up, went down, with Overwatch and that whole system. I went up and went down. I
Yep.
eventually finished Plat 3, and and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. So I'm like, okay, I'll move on to Rivals. Rivals, I'll be quite frank with you. I'm actually okay where I am there. I'm currently at Plat 3,
Nice.
uh Plat, like on the cusp of Plat 2. I think I finished as high as Plat 1,
Yep.
and then every time I rank up, it says I'm, the top 10 percentile or
Yeah,
top
that's awesome.
90%. So
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
hey, so I'm even like, well, why even do coaching? But at the same time, I know coaching, the strive for perfection, right?
Yeah, of
So
course.
if there is something I can do, or I'm just not seeing or understanding, then by all means, that's why I sought your services.
Okay, perfect. Well, there's
Did
always
did
something
that
better you
answer
could do.
everything?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's actually great. There's always something better that you can do.
sure.
And I think for you is it's more along the lines of how accessible do I feel like that next step is? Because I think in Rivals that next step is a lot more accessible because the player base is just a lot stupider right now compared to Overwatch, right?
And I want to get to that banning phase. I know that's in Diamond
Mm-hmm.
or so
Mm-hmm.
so so.
Yep,
If I could
full
just
diamond
get to
lobby.
that, yeah. If I could just get to that next notch,
Yeah, yeah,
just to
absolutely.
experience that, I think
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
do that.
Yeah, and I think that's accessible. I think again, if we talk about like ignoring the percentage breakdown, you clearly look at your gameplay now and be like, there's definitely a lot of things that I could clean up without too much effort. I mean, it's definitely going to take effort. It's going to definitely take cleaning up some habits here. But if we ignore the top 10%, right? Like, do I feel like with the amount of time that I'm spending in the game, which at the time of Overwatch is 1 to 2 hours, is it about the same with Rivals?
I'm sorry. Well, the
Well, you
the
were spending
time.
around 1 to 2 hours with Overwatch. Is it about the same with Rivals per day?
Yes. Now
Yeah,
the only controversial thing is I do work from
sure.
home, so I might slip in a game here and there. But
Yep.
yeah, it's about in that time. I also have kids, so
Yep, of
put
course.
them to bed, and
Yep.
that's not That's that. And I will say between rival and not to do a lot of comparisons, but it's obviously
That's
out
fine.
there. I
Yeah.
can choose the servers,
Right.
so it that makes a tremendous difference, especially playing a little bit at night. I can take off West Coast. Obviously, the Brazilian folks won't come up. Nothing against Brazil or their players. It's just the
Sure.
ping,
Yep. Understand.
and
Understandable.
sometimes in Overwatch, if you play a little late at night, you get a sort of a myriad of servers that's out
Yeah.
of your control. So
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So with training time right now, I think something at least one small step ahead of where you're at right now is accessible. You're not grinding all day. You have other responsibilities, as you said, including family, and you're not grinding like 5 hours a day, right? So, but
no,
I do think that like diamond is accessible probably from where you're at.
yeah,
Let's just ignore the rank for right now. We could get you 5% better, 10% better, just to pick an arbitrary percentage.
much appreciated. Yeah.
So I think the question is going to be, what do you need to be doing better? And I think this is where we go back to the same principles that we talk about with Overwatch, which is your approach to training. You have an idea of a hero pool. You talk about Wolverine primarily, Punisher,
Yeah,
sometimes Hela.
right.
And what situations, I could probably guess, but in what situations do you find yourself playing Punisher? In what situations do you find yourself playing Hela? And what is the approximate percentage breakdown?
So when I pick up Punisher, it's the flying heroes. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Storm just got buffed. Iron
Mm-hmm.
Man has been strong with Hulk. So when I see
Yep.
there's a lot of flying heroes and they're light on tanks, that's when I'm thinking, okay, maybe Punisher or Hela
Yes.
will come out, and especially on defense. I find Wolverine's a little better on offense
Sure.
versus defense. So
Yep.
that's the reason for Punisher. Uh, quite frankly, the difference between Punisher and Hela, I find Hela boring. She
Yeah.
reminds too much of Ash, where you just sit back and point and click. At least Punisher, you get your tracking in there. You get the shotgun. You can go down and help out
Yep.
with the tanks. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit more versatile. Hella is
Mm-hmm.
just pure find the heads, click as many as you can,
Yep.
and the bombs, the delayed bombs, all sorts of stuff. But she's wonderful with anti-air, so just to do that. And quite frankly, my proficiency is a lot better with Hella. Quite to put it out there, I think I probably could rank up easier with Hella,
Right.
but it's just so boring.
Well,
I
see, that's
can't
it,
do it.
right? That's
Yeah.
it, right? You're gonna I think long term rank up better with characters that you enjoy playing, with a few exceptions. Like I think Mantis for me was that character for me, right? Where like I felt like if I played Mantis, I could have gotten to one above all or eternity, just
Mhm.
because the playstyle was super intuitive but I just didn't want to. I want to play Winter Soldier.
Yeah, right.
So I
That's
think
the
it's the same
beauty
thing
of
for
it.
you. And I honestly I encourage you. Like I think I definitely think Hella has maybe more accessible range, maybe more accessible verticality, and is certainly even in her nerf state I think probably stronger than Punisher. But I honestly encourage you if you really don't enjoy playing Hella, you probably could just get away with dropping her entirely, frankly. Especially with the goals that you're having for yourself, which is not exactly the highest rank. It's I want to get to Diamond, I want to be performing at Diamond. I think Punisher Wolverine's a fine hero pool.
Sure. Well, the problem is with those, they're often picked. So
I see
sometimes
what you're saying.
someone's
I see what
already
you're saying.
picking Punisher,
Got it.
so I'm like, okay,
Got
let
it.
me just pick
Okay. Well,
Hella.
then fair enough. Then you won't have me complaining anymore. Okay. So for playtime, you talked about 1 to 2 hours. I think that kind of depends on your work. You were saying sometimes you fit a game here and there. Kids go to bed and so on. Do you ever warm up at all? You talked a little bit about aim labs earlier. Do you have a warm
Hmm.
up routine? If you were to have like the
Yeah.
perfect training day without interruptions, what would that look like?
So in Aim Labs, I have two playlists, one for
Okay.
tracking, one for shots. I try to go
Mm-hmm.
through at least once or twice. Then practice range for Punisher for tracking.
Mm-hmm.
And just today, because today was special, I knew I had an appointment with you. I did Wolverine tracking because sometimes the leap doesn't grab. So I
Mm-hmm.
figured I can buff myself a little bit and start doing that. So I just added that exercise on.
Sure. Sure.
So that's generally it. And then a little quick play, and then that I'm good to go.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Have you tried the new deathmatch mode with Rivals yet? I
I
forget what it's
have
called.
not.
You should.
Is
You
it
should.
Doom Watch or
It's
something?
Doom match or something. Hang on,
Doom.
wait, what is it?
Yeah.
Doom match. Yeah, I mean it's basically legally not deathmatch.
Right. I'll try
I,
it out.
I would give that a shot. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a little bit tricky, but I think if you look at like the characters that you're playing, right? Aim labs totally fine, could be useful for your mechanics, but I would consider replacing or trying to replace your practice range and your quick play time with Doom Match and see how much fun it is. Because I think you made a great point there. With Wolverine, you're just going to whiff a lot of grabs. That's just the character, right? He's just incredibly difficult. And I think for getting the placement and the mechanics and kind of, I hate to use the term muscle memory, but the placement exactly right, I think you just need reps on real players.
Yeah.
And I think even for Punisher, the ability to weapon swap to kind of gauge that effective range between the transitions, and honestly, even really importantly, like utilizing your smoke, right, and duels, right, knowing how to layer that, being able to practice the combos. Like it's not just a point and shoot character, kind of like you said, Hella is, right? It's very combo oriented. Even stuff like repositioning on the map quickly.
Yeah.
I think that would be where something like a Doom match can be really useful. And I would give it a shot. Like ultimately, like again, we said earlier, you're pursuing fun first, primarily fun. So what I would do is I would try incorporating that instead of practice range or instead of quick play or instead of both. Heck, you might even try a day where you just like, I don't really feel like doing aim labs. Let's see how I feel in game if I skip aim labs and just do more Doom match. See how that goes. I don't think there's any hard rules with that, but I encourage you to experiment more with that.
All right. I'll make a note of.
And that would be really helpful for your talk about Wolverine tracking, right? Like
Yeah.
nothing like actually and because it's Doom match, like you don't care about. Now I assume it's got like an Overwatch like respawn, so it's like 1 second, right? 2 seconds, you're right back in. I mean, there's your tracking practice, right? Real life consequences, or not real life, but like actual consequences, and quick, like doing it over and over and over and over and over again. So give it a shot. If I was coaching a Genji player, I'd be telling them to play deathmatch, not Vax to code or not Kovacs, right? So I think Wolverine is probably something similar along those lines.
Okay.
Okay, you've had plenty of coaching before, and obviously that was with Ash. And you kind of referenced it earlier. You talked a lot about like kind of holding a position, you shoot, pretty boring. Are there any other principles that you pulled from that coaching that you've kind of like built into your understanding of the maybe Overwatch that might have carried over into Rivals? Any fundamentals you feel like have built your understanding of the game?
Certainly, certainly. I think, and I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm hearing you guys, you as a coach. I think Coach Mills, I sought him out. Samito, I sought him out. Io Stux, although I don't think I see him much nowadays.
Yeah,
But
he's retired officially, so.
yeah, so I'm going through, but I definitely love you guys. So what I've incorporated is, try to move up with tanks, try to hold space. I am not the guy who will sit on cart.
Sure.
That has been coached out of me, and it actually infuriates me. Not to a point where I'm screaming at anybody, but I'm trying to move up, and sometimes the tanks. Sometimes it's that grand argument of do I sit on cart or do I move up? And
Right.
I've definitely it has been coached out of me to move up, take space, and even with Wolverine, I feel like he's a semi tank. I can take space, just push people back, and I can retreat
Yeah.
because my tanks are on cart looking at me doing this stuff, and I'm like, please, just give me
Yeah.
some support. So there's that. I think that's about in high ground. I think that gets me in trouble. I think off angles. I think you even had something about off angles recently, but I think my angles are a little too off, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
with
I get that.
Punisher, I don't go for the flank, but the supports only play main, and that gets me. But maybe that's where I don't want to blame the team versus the
Yeah.
elo, all that stuff, but
Yeah.
sometimes you want to get an off angle, you want to cause some disruption, maybe not look for a kill, maybe get some distraction. But then if I'm out poked, I get
That's
no
just
healing.
it, right?
So
That's
yeah,
just
so
it,
it's
right?
that combination of off angles, high ground, space, push up, and
Okay.
then yeah, if you have the spawn advantage, get back to point, maybe
Sure.
push it and get to that thing. So yeah, I hopefully I covered some
Yeah, yeah, very good.
fundamentals and
Very
and
good.
stats. Last but not least, Wolverine gets probably one of the worst stats. So I've even trained myself not to even look at the stats because he
Oh
doesn't
yeah, for
poke,
sure. Yeah, he
right?
does not. He doesn't. And you got
So
to think about like
yeah,
the entry pick, right? It's very much like a almost like a Widowmaker, where sometimes the cleanup kills are really difficult for you to access, right? So you get
mm,
that opening reposition. Maybe you secure that kill, maybe you don't. and then through that advantage, your team is cleaning things up. But you
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 hope.
might you might have you might win 4 team fights in a row and have 4 eliminations, right?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's that mental training of not, hey, don't worry about stats. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's working, it's not working, and
Good.
stuff like that.
Good. So it sounds like you got a good familiarity with some basics, some fundamentals, and we'll take a look at the execution of those things. And ultimately, I think the most important thing that you can always be evaluating, and I want to emphasize this really importantly, is how you're practicing, right?
Yeah.
Because you've had a lot of coaching, and you
Yeah.
are an above average player, right? At least in rivals, you're a significantly above average player.
I hope
But
so.
well, percentage wise, right? We talk about that 10% stat. Like, maybe not everyone's playing ranked, but still that's great. Good for you. But ultimately, I think the biggest thing that you could do is not just learn, but actually implement to train, right? And you're in an awkward, not an awkward, but you're in a, let's say, balanced position that a lot of people that I don't coach or I do coach aren't in, which is you've got a family, you got a full-time job, you have other responsibilities. And so even when you do practice, you may not have the full energy, the full focus. It's just more done for fun. You're not out here sweating, you're not here try-harding. You're even tired, right? Like I get made fun of on stream when I do play because, I've been coaching for hours, I've been training, I've been working all morning. And then I also have to go stream for 3 or 4 hours and then I'll play. And it's like, I've essentially had a full work day, right? Before I even start playing. And so by the time I'm playing, I'm not fully focused. I'm a little tired. So I'm going to be making some stupid mistakes, right? And where to train, if you were to like train seriously, optimally, you want to try to put a little bit more mental energy, a little bit more mental focus into it. So, the earlier you train in the day, the more sleep you get, the better warmed up you are, the more short breaks that you take, and the higher intensity that you bring to the game, the better you're going to train. But obviously, you and I are kind of in a position where that's not always possible. So I think like keeping that in the back of your mind, knowing your limitations, and when and where possible, if you could do so without compromising, your work or your family, just set realistic expectations, right? You're not going to be, if your kids are in bed, it's 10:15 at night, you've had a long day, you're not going to go in and be like, I'm going to really be kicking everyone's tail, training super hard, sweating. You might go, I'm going to try to see how many fights I can stay focused on my cover usage. I'm going to see how many fights I can stay focused on my rage management, right? Just setting small goals for yourself and seeing small improvements over time. But obviously, like your expectations versus somebody where they're committing to this full time, it's going to be a little bit different.
You got it.
All right. That's going to be the big one. It's not exciting or fun, but like anybody that tells you like, oh, I could get you to Grandmaster anytime. I mean, the biggest ingredient, not to be corny, is it is you, right? Like it is your ability to train and put in effort. And so I think that's going to be the big thing here. Okay, so let's take a look here. So I've done my homework here, at least a little bit. So I'm pretty prepared for whatever you've got thrown my way. Do you want to look at Wolverine? Do you want to look at Punisher? I think a replay code here would be optimal.
Okay, let me go into the game.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a couple favorites. There's one. Let's see, favorites match. There's one I just did. I think I can figure out what went wrong. Let's see, replay ID. Is this how you do it? Hold on. This is part of the.
That's
Never
okay.
really shared it before. Hold on.
That's all right. I've got some issues as well, so I might have to check with you to make sure that you can see. When you're done sharing, take a look at my stream here and see if you can.
I think that's the ID there. I did chat you the ID. It says it's copied. We'll see if it.
Okay, let me see. Now I actually look at.
And I looked at this and I can tell you, I think it was okay. Now it was a long match. It was a 5v4, or it was a 5 points to 4, so definitely won overtime. But I think it just came down to I lost a 1v1.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, I hate to blame myself, but because of that, was that the deciding factor, or was there something else?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to you to say there's something else.
Let me look this up. Hang on one second.
Sure. or
One
how to
second
load
here.
it or something.
Favorites tab, match replays. Okay, let's see if this works here. Hopefully this works.
It just happened.
I think
There.
this is it. Is this it right here?
This is it. Let's see. Sergeant Slaughter. Yep. Top
Okay.
right.
So the stream is working okay for Discord?
I see it. Yeah.
Okay. It was being weird. And then when I tab out, does it go away?
It says stream pause.
Got it. Okay, that's good to know. So that doesn't do that with Overwatch, but it does with this. Okay, let me turn on the audio here. And then hopefully my OBS picks this up. And by the way, I am recording this, and I'll have this sent to you when we're done. So if you want to go back and watch it again, you can do that. Let me make sure this works here. Let's do window capture here. And then let's select rivals. That's not the right thing here. Let's try game capture. 1 second here. Game capture. Our rivals. And hopefully, yeah, I think that works right there. I'm going to need to tweak one more thing. Give me just a second. And then we should be good to go. And that goes under there. Okay, I think we're good to go. So, are you Sergeant Slaughter here?
I am. Yeah.
Okay, love it. Skip ahead here. And that's going to be you here. So, are there anything recently that you have been working on with Rivals?
Well,
with Wolverine specifically?
Yeah, with Wolverine, knowing when to go for the kill and knowing when to get the heck out of there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key thing when you were talking about angles here earlier and flanks, right? And Wolverine's obviously not the guy to be hard flanking most of the time. Right. I think in Rivals generally because sustain is so strong, because oftentimes maps can be a little bit more congested or flank routes take too long. And even stuff like, you're familiar with like the heal passive that Overwatch has now, right? You're out of combat, you heal yourself. You don't have that, right? And Rivals, so at least as of right now. So basically, if the map gives you a really strong flanking route and you're getting poked out really hard, or there's not really a tank line that you can punish, you do need to be taking flanks, right? You need to be finding access to targets that you can bully, even with a character like Wolverine. But the difference between a long flank versus a tight short angle, right? Staying kind of close to your team, but my tank is kind of close right, I'm kind of close left, or vice versa, really, really, really important. And if you watch a lot of higher level Wolverine, it's essentially that, right? Sometimes they'll flank, sometimes if the map provides it or there's like a really strong poke composition or something like that. But most of the time it's just kind of angling around payload or angling around the environment to go for the fish for those pulls, right? To fish for those the shifts out, to pull them out and rinse and repeat. So for you, it's going to be essentially, am I finding those opportunities? Am I finding the short angles to go for things? So you can kind of see what you're doing right here, right? Like you're looking for a bit of an angle to go in from the left side, right? So the question here, and this is the most important thing with Wolverine, is your proximity, right? Does this angle give you proximity onto anybody in the enemy team?
Proximity? No.
Not really, right? So you see the upside of this isn't there.
Correct.
So then the next question is okay, so then where could I go instead? I want to say free cam, forget what's the toggle with this. The free cam is C. So then what is the proximity that I need then? Everybody's kind of rotated here. You've used your scouting. Where is the proximity? Give me actually give me two options here. Maybe one that you're not even sure about, but just where do you think?
Well, I think the obvious one is if I had stayed right with the team.
Sure.
But the strange, I'll say this. The enemy strain, what I've seen sometimes is they play on the left side of that tower.
Yeah, so they'll play here. And so then we go back to the question, would this have made sense of strangers here? The answer is yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, right?
I just didn't know where, the
right,
beginning.
Of course. So this isn't a mistake. This is just a general rollout. You've scouted the information. Okay, so then now what do you do with that information?
Oh, just trying to get to that strange. That's
right. So get to that strange. Now the question is especially if you're thinking destructible environment on this particular point, what's your angle here? Because you're like, oh, I'm going to start with my tank. Yeah, I agreed. But eventually, if you could optimally be anywhere, destructible environment included here, I'm kind of hinting at something, where would you be?
Well, I know that wall breaks down, and
Yep.
sometimes I play that into this wall. You
This
gotta
is
be
your angle.
careful because it always breaks down,
Yeah.
and that side
Yeah.
too is open.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
especially when there's a penny over there, because they usually leave mines over there, I
Yep.
definitely utilize that wall. But
Yeah.
with a strange, I'm like, hey, let's see what happens. So
So
yeah,
this is kind of what I'm looking for, right? We talk about angle versus flank. This is the angle that you're looking for. Okay. So what you do is you would go here, you'd punish that strange, maybe break that wall, and then we'd go for our combo. Now I'm gonna use the hotkeys here. I'm not gonna be able to use the abilities just yet. I'm too stupid to do that. But essentially here, this is where you would go right click into your shift. You would sit with your tank. You'd go, I'm going to right click behind Strange, through him quickly, right? And then attempt to pull him out. And there's your brief angle attempt. You got to see the difference between, that's still an angle, but it's not a flank. Do you see the difference there?
say that. The angle is just to get to Strange on the
Yes.
right side of the pole?
Yes. So your team is here. The angle would be quickly getting to here. All right.
Got it.
Getting behind, taking a different angle than your team. And then the flank would be something that takes a lot longer. So that was one option, right? You could pull the Strange out of position here. Where's your flank option here? As you do that,
Go big
what do you
cover left where that
Right.
longer pole is.
right.
And
So
I think I might do that actually.
Yeah. So we talk about proximity, right? Like that's again what you're chasing, right? So could you go here? Sure. It would be risky, but you could. Heck, you could even take the opportunity to go around here because again, you have better proximity. Now, this is really the question of, is this what I want to do with Wolverine? The answer is probably not, but at least there's logic here, right?
Sure.
I am at least scary in here, in theory, right? I'm just not scary where I'm at right now. So ultimately, I got to change my hotkey for screenshots here because I keep taking a screenshot every time I press F12. Let's see here. What would that be?
And I'm thinking out loud. What did I do? I probably did a mix of that. Where because with Wolverine, I also think he generates space a little bit.
He does.
And since there was only one tank, I'm thinking I probably pressed E for my iron skin or whatever that's called, and then I think I went around in front of their team to try to get Strange from left to right, if that makes sense. But
Yeah.
let's see. I forgot.
All
It
right.
just happened. I still forgot.
Yeah, absolutely. So you pop your damage reduction. Like this is, lasts what, like 5 seconds. So you have that opportunity to go for a play. I mean, you seem like you're locked into backline here, right? You seem like you're locked into backline here. So this is the important cycle that you need to go for. You right click in to provide that quick closing, the distance closing essentially, right? So you don't take that damage, right? Right there. And then the next question is, where do you go with this?
All right. So he moved out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I figured to protect myself, I went back here
Sure.
this was me thinking I'm not going to kill this guy.
Sure.
I probably pushed him away so my team has space, but
Yep.
certainly I will get destroyed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing. Your cycle, like you're a tempo-oriented character. Basically, like you are on this timing, and your timing is essentially around that right click, around your damage reduction, and then around your shift. One little detail here is I think you have a lot more control with your shift than you think. When you initially press shift, you can reposition the direction that you go. So just because you're approaching Strange from this location here doesn't mean you have to pull him here. You could pivot as you're pressing shift and actually pivot it backwards. Something that you something you can experiment with more. But yeah, the good news here is that you at least got out quickly. You ended in cover. You still have your damage reduction passive, although that's about to end here. And then the crucial thing is that you shifted not either to your team or you shifted to cover. And those are the rules here, right? You dash out, and then we go from there.
Yeah, I'm looking a little bit. See,
I mean, to be honest with you, I just would have trusted your supports a little more, right? I think like once you're in cover, open up your sightline so that they can heal you, and then go again.
Sure.
Now, again, proximity here, right? What are you going to do? You got to start making these decisions now, right? Because this isn't going to work because you're coming up on your cooldowns again.
Yeah. I'm still focusing on Strange. I'm thinking I could just probably go behind him.
Sure. That's you're missing your tempo. It's not the fact that you went for Storm. Let me be very clear. It's the fact that look at your CDs.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have shift yet. You don't have your damage reduction yet. You're not even full health yet. Right?
Yeah.
So is this something, this is kind of like where you talk about, this is a concept that I use in a lot of other characters in Overwatch. It's called downtime for uptime. Okay? In other words, you do nothing so that when it's time to do something, you're ready to go. Because if you go in now, yeah, you're doing damage, but ultimately it means that when those cooldowns come off and you're ready to go, you're not going to be prepared for that. Because the chances of you getting poked out here, there it is, right? And so now you should be going in and look at where you're at. You get what I'm saying? So I want you, unless you really see an opportunity, somebody's 1 HP, break the rules, fine, but you have to stick to your tempo. You go for your cycle, you chill. You go for your cycle, you chill. The only thing that you can go for besides that cycle is maybe you can shoot tank a little bit, right? If it's a safe angle, it's fine. But right now, you desperately need to be in and you're not. And I think it's because you're like, I feel like I could do a little damage here. Just wait like 2 seconds and then do what you just did. Then you're cooking.
All right.
Pop the damage reduction. Yeah, let's pull. Nice. Huge. Good stuff. Yeah, that was really good.
I tried to find him. I got lost a little bit.
I mean, he flew. There's nothing you can really do about that, right? So, yeah, that was great. Well done. It was just late, right? It's just late because you went for the storm instead. Okay. This is good. You're good. Just chill. Now, you might need to be thinking here, what's the next step, right? Do I want to go for that Punisher? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think you got it because I'm thinking now the tank's gone. And that's one problem with Wolverine. If the tank's gone.
Yes.
And there's nothing but squishies. I'm like, well, who do I go? Rocket is the hard target.
Yeah.
Punisher, Storm's flying.
So let me introduce you.
Yeah.
Let me introduce you to a combo flip. Okay. So you are familiar with the close the distance with your right click, shift somebody out with your damage reduction, right, and pull them out of position. That's your tank cycle, right? But really more important than that, that's not really your tank cycle. That's just your when I'm close to you cycle. You could do that on anybody. You could do that in pull a support out. You could pull a DPS out. It's just basically if I'm close to you, I could use my right click then shift. You got me?
Yeah.
Flip the script. If somebody's far away, there's nobody close to you right now. Like, let's just pretend that you didn't see Storm. Okay. Shift, then right click. All right? So this is what you do. You're going to go, again, sorry for the screenshot noise there. I don't know. I need to figure out how to unkeybind that.
I don't hear it. It's all good.
Okay, perfect. So the idea here is you're going to pop your damage reduction. Yeah, you're going to stay on your tempo, right? You're going to stay on your tempo. Wait for your cooldowns, right? You're going to shift to close the distance with your damage reduction, and you're going to use your right click as an enabler to just murder this guy.
Okay.
So you're going to jump in almost like a Winston Overwatch, right? You're going to jump in. You're going to go, wop, 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 right? You're going to go with your crazy fast stuff. He's going to either try to get away, probably use smoke on you. I mean, you play this character. You know how it works, right? And instead of using your shift to pull him in position, you're going to use the shift to get to him and then pursue with your right click. And now this is where it gets really fun. If he doesn't use his smoke to disengage, you animation cancel your primary fire with your alternate fire. So what you do is you go, there's a delay between your slashes, right? If you're not doing your wop, up, 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 right? So if he just stands there and takes it, you could shift in, tear him up, he runs away, you slash, right click, slash. So you just do primary fire, alternate fire, primary fire.
Gotcha.
And that's an immediate animation cancel. But regardless, ignoring all those tiny little details here, I want you to shift in.
Gotcha.
I want you to shift in. And I want you to use that alternate fire to pursue. Now, you might be thinking, oh, I'm in trouble. Wolverine is still really freaking good up close to poke characters. He's still really good. You got that damage reduction, right? If you're able to land the shift accurately, then you have actually really high damage with your I don't even know what the speed clause, the post-shift craziness, right?
Yeah.
And so right here, you're thinking about the combo here. Now, I want to also point out again, you're not really playing your tempo.
Yeah,
you see this? So even if you were to go in with your right click here, you really need to make sure that you have your damage reduction here. I know you're like, I'm 100 rage. You need to be careful. And that's it, right? Do you see the problem there, right? You did damage, but you lost your passive. You demanded pocket, and now you're kind of screwed. And so now you're thinking, oh, I need to go out, kind of, sort of here. Well, actually, maybe not. I mean, this is crazy. Look at that HP. But ultimately, I would have loved this. If you'd done this 2 or 3 seconds later, there would have been actual threat here. Okay, so now here's the real question here. Let's see how much you've been studying here, or how much you've been, let's put it this way. How well have I been communicating this? Okay. What should your combo be here? You've popped your E, that's good. Now what?
I think right, then shift.
Yeah, exactly. You're already close, so now you pull them out of position, right? Now at this point, you have so much HP and you have so much damage reduction. You could you could slam them into their own backline, essentially, if you wanted to. But yeah, you don't need to do open with shift as a gap closer. You already have the proximity that you need. So there you go, right? You dash in. Yeah, you don't quite hit it, but you're going to get the angle that you want. Now just shift this guy in. That's fine. It happens. This is where I think you could practice more with deathmatch. I think you're a tiny bit far away. I honestly don't know. But yeah, this is where you could just turn your brain off and just shoot. Good. Good disengage. Really good disengage. And it's space, right? We talked about space creation, right? Look at the kill feed, right? Damage reduction. You're already close. Again, the combo here should be pretty obvious, right? Shoot, right click. And then pull them out, right? There you go. Good stuff. Nice job. I definitely would be going for that. I guess probably okay, because they've used all their reses, but when in doubt, can go for that. Yeah, good stuff.
Well, I will say I have a good team. Because I could do this with a bad team, and it's like, what am I doing? But I do give props to my team on this one.
Good. Okay. So remember, big takeaways here is stay true to your tempo, which sometimes you've kind of not done because you're like, I want to do. No, wait 2 or 3 seconds. That's the biggest thing so far.
Wolverine, wait, I can't see him do that in the comics, but I know I gotta do it.
Yeah. The second thing here is knowing which cycle to go for. Right, gap closer, shift right click. Pulling out of position at anybody close, right click shift. And then, the difference between angles and flanks, which you kind of saw there, you pulled them deep, you ended up flanking them essentially because that's just where you were. But like, for example, here, you could dash left and then pull him right. You could dash right, pull him left. Let's see what you do. Obviously, right now, a lot of patience. There's no real reason to do anything because your team isn't... Yeah, see, this is where I don't love this. Where is your team? I don't even have to turn the camera,
Right. No, and I think I thought he was going to stay up there. He didn't.
That's fine.
I hope I backed out. That is my hope.
Right, exactly. Exactly, because basically your team isn't really fighting right now. Like, if I'm coaching you on Punisher right now, I'm absolutely screaming. Not really, but I'm not happy with your turret timing here, right? Because I look at this Punisher and I'm like, bro, there's nothing happening right now. Like, you guys are just pushing payload a million miles away. Like, it's gonna be at least a few seconds before stuff really happens, right? And so the same thing goes for you, right? Like, especially once the Strange is out, like, there's really no point doing anything. Now, your team is popping things, but for you, we go back to that proximity, right? You got a problem here. Everything is so freaking far away. So you got two options. You do nothing if you're confident in your position, or you find a better position that gives you proximity.
Gotcha.
So right now, your team is fighting. We're committing. Okay, fine. Yeah, you don't have your damage reduction yet, so you can't really do much right now. But with the information that you have, I know we can see through walls here, but that's cheating, right? With the information that you reasonably would have, what's next up?
Sometimes I like to go into that store across the street.
Yeah.
And that gets me a little closer because there's a whole back alley back there.
Right.
I see that they're over there.
Is this destructible? I think it is, right? Maybe.
I'll have to confirm it. I know the windows are.
But the back alley for sure. Like with the health pack here. I mean, talk about like flanks versus angles. Like, this is the proximity that we love, right? Like, because you're gonna drop here and you're gonna just yoink her right out. Now, if you knew Strange was underneath you, here's your angle on Strange, right? Just beat up on this guy too. Maybe even without damage reduction, it's worth it if your team's pushing. But I guess the TLDR is that, like, the big thing again is with your position proximity. And you notice that there's like no hard rules with positioning here. What we're doing is we're looking at how the enemy team is set up. You remember first fight, you're like, normally there's somebody here, but there wasn't. So what am I going to do, right? We're having the same conversation again here. Normally there's people here,
There's not. Now what?
Yeah.
Right? You don't just want to go like, all right, well, I'm just going to gap close. Like, no.
Yeah.
Right?
That was
Like,
not a tank, yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, if you had to, you would shift in and then right click and then hopefully ult or whatever, right? But you really don't want to do that unless you have to. So, yeah, you see him, you're like, all right, I got this. But this is where, like, oh, you got to stay true to your tempo. Either stay true to your tempo or get a better angle. Do you notice that this is not an angle? Because where is your team and where are you?
Yeah, I'm frontlining right now.
You're frontlining, right? You were just kind of stacked and frontlining, right? There's no sort of nuance. There's no sort of grace or sneakiness with your approach. You're not dropping from the roof and coming from behind. You're not breaking the wall down and coming from here. You're not coming from up here. So it's basically, this is where, especially because you haven't stayed true to your tempo, in other words, you don't have your damage reduction yet, you should be in serious trouble right now. You should be in serious trouble right now. Now, you may not be, because your team is popping a lot of ultimates, but this is going to be rough. Right?
I did get my ult, but I don't know if I know that yet.
Even if you do, is this really how you want to use your ultimate, as like a Band-Aid off of a bad decision, right? Yeah. Like, we want more than that, right? So look at your HP. You haven't been able to do anything. You're going to shift this guy, and you are going to just barely miss him. But the big problem here... Okay. The big promise was you were reaching. You're going too far from your character instead of setting up a better angle, a better flank, a better proximity, right? And again, no tempo. All right? You need your E on your cycle most of the time. So that's not why you lose this fight. You know, your team, I think, dies regardless because their ult usage is horrible. But for your value, right, that's a bad habit that we just highlighted there. That you got to be a little bit more patient with either doing nothing and waiting for your cooldowns or repositioning and setting up for your next engage. Okay, so set up. Good. There's your little angle. Good stuff.
I popped that because I knew they were right behind me.
Yeah. You're gonna die. That's fine. But again, here you got to be patient, right? So you're thinking maybe I don't need to wait for my E here.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely thinking ultimate.
Yeah,
they don't have a tank, so.
Yep. Okay, so then where's your setup? Where's your proximity? Now you know for sure where they are. So how do you do this? Be strategic.
I gotta wait for my tank, and that gives me some time to push up.
Yeah, but I want you to think about your positioning too, because once again we have proximity problem, right? You have time here, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to drop in? Is there somebody to your left that you could just drop on? If not, you're going to need to cross the street, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to do here. Like, I know I need to get closer. Oh, the left shift, but I still have to wait because I have 8 seconds on the
E. That's the thing, right? And honestly, if you have to gap close with shift, you'd like to be at least a little bit closer, right? Like this is a long way off. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. We're saying that you're going to have to wait. So use that waiting time to position yourself better.
Yeah.
Where should you go?
Yeah, I'm curious. Just right in that corner, like tuck more into that corner so I don't get hit with anything. And
right? But again, you got to be thinking ahead. Where do you want to be in 8 seconds?
Oh, across the street on the roof.
Yes.
And then be able to drop down.
That's it. So when you're waiting for your E, especially because of how low the cooldown is for your right click. What's the cooldown for shift? Is it less than E? I feel like it is, right?
It's like 3 or 2 seconds.
Yeah. Okay. Well, your shift is what I'm saying, not just your right click.
Oh, shift. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I think it's like 8 seconds, 10 seconds, something like that. Okay. Basically, you've got 2 cooldowns, I think, that are lower than your damage reduction that you can use to reposition yourself while you're waiting. So, like, right now, you could shift across the street, right-click behind the flank, or try to break down the wall, see what happens, right? And then when that E comes up, you're ready. You're not just ready with your cooldowns, you're ready with your position. My point being is that, again, downtime for uptime. Use the time that you're waiting for your cooldowns to get in a better position for when you have your cooldowns. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
And it all revolves around that proximity because this is just too far, ultimate or not, right? Now, if you were listening a little better, you would have known this, right? So this is fine. Like you could have just gone right for this. That's okay. Like it happens. It's not, the game's footsteps not always super clear, but this is This is just rough, right? This is just so unbelievably far. Now, if you have to gap close here, remember, shift first, then right click, right? Close the distance quickly with your shift, then right click. And then from here, you're going to probably need to immediately press your Q.
Oh,
Sure.
he popped his ult.
Yeah. He created that window for you.
If I had just known Luna was there, that could have changed the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in hindsight, like, Luna's got ultimate, so probably a little gross that she's able to use ultimate to counter too. That sucks, right? It happens.
And because she did that, I think I just got out of there.
It's smart, right? It's smart. And do you notice what you're finally doing?
Yeah,
look,
I'm trying to get
you're
to
like,
that location. Yeah.
You're going, oh, Luna Snow's ulting. I can literally do nothing, so I might as well get set up. Brilliant.
Yeah.
This is what we've been waiting for, right? This is what we've been waiting for, because what is that? We got like another 8 seconds, 7 seconds? Yeah, this is too soon. This is too soon. I think it's too soon. No, it's not. You actually timed it perfectly. I'm dumb. That was 12 seconds. Yeah, this is perfect. This is perfect. This is perfect. What? You see it? You see it? You see it? Brilliant. Well, okay. We'll give you some credit, all right? Like, everyone makes mistakes, but I think this is calculated.
She popped it, and I knew I was running around, so I knew maybe it was probably going to end soon, but to pop it right when it ended, that was...
Well, yeah, but it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Within a second or two, it's still fine because you're going to pull them out of position and they're going to die. But this is exactly what we wanted, right? You're coming in. Now, would this be a flank or an angle? Again, I don't really care. You're close. It didn't take you forever to get here. You had downtime because ultimate. It might as well. And here we go, right? Pop your damage reduction. Get that right click. Shift out. Go nuts. Let's see what happens. This is where you're forcing targets too hard. Just take what's available. Who's available here?
Luna, I guess.
Luna. Who else? Do you see who's just to your left?
Well, Punisher, but he can't be. He was ulting.
Can he? Oh, that's right. He can't be CC during his ult, right?
Yeah, I've learned that lesson.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, definitely Luna here. Definitely Luna. I think your initial goal was to go for Storm, but again, that character is just Hover City, impossible to get to. But yeah, Luna was the play, 100% the play. So now you're like trying to gap close here, and it's just like not great.
Yeah,
that's okay. Yeah, I think you probably should just die here. Oh no, you actually live in the flank.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Their rocket's just like, I guess, just ignoring you. Now, that's okay. What's the problem here? Your team is obviously in spawn, so that's the biggest problem. But you got your cycle right. What's the big problem now?
I should have died earlier.
You should have died earlier. Also, gap closer, right? Too far. Too far, right? So you're kind of doing your cycle here, brain dead, right? But I want you to be more thoughtful. If you're going to use your right click into shift, you need to be 3 meters, 4 meters closer, right? So use that little fallen building to your left so that, because you notice you can't shift them from here. You're close, but you can't.
Oh, I don't think I was going for anyone.
I
was just trying to get out of dodge.
I see.
I knew, like I'm just trying to scare him a little bit and then trying to get out of
Gotcha. Yeah, at that point, just might as well die or disengage, or even just wait. Just hide in that room and wait for your team. Okay. So again, downtime for uptime here. You're waiting for your team. You're thinking, where do I want to go? There they are.
I saw him, and I'm like, he's
way overextended. Yeah, he's way overextended. And this is where I really want you to use that camera control with shift, because you're coming directly at him, but you could pivot. You could right-click right to his side. You could do the same thing with Winter Soldier's uppercut here too, right? So you see how you dash right at him? I don't want you to do that. I want you to dash right to the side, either left or right. Okay?
Left or right, okay.
Left or right, right? Dash at the side, shift, pivot the camera, and pull him in. Yeah, you see it? You did it. You control it. Look at that. You're just like floating like a balloon. Because look at where you initially were looking when you pressed the carry, right?
Well, he jumped. I noticed when people jump, you can get leap all day because they add that extra height.
But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is look at the control that you have while you're moving it. Look, you see that?
Oh yeah, certainly.
Yeah, so use that, right? Use that more. Like whip them around, right? I think the first one that you did on first point, you were a little bit like, oh, I'm locked into that area. No, you're not. You could carry this guy around, right? So this is really good for you, man. This is really good. You can ruin this guy.
Now, he made the mistake of going the wrong way. Because he could have floated out to the right. But, hey, I'll take it.
True. But again, like, he floats out, he still loses a huge chunk of his HP. This is great. Okay, now, you can't do anything for 6 seconds. You know where enemies are. Where's your next step? Use your downtime for uptime. Where should you go? You got options, right?
I'm still thinking left. I know my Punisher's ulting, so I might even ignore my downtime because my Punisher's ulting.
True.
To help out, but
Sure.
at the same time, I might just go to that building on the left.
You still have to get close, right? So you still got to be like, where are they? You could go in that little room on the right there, that little door on the floor. You could sneak up behind the rocket. You can cut them off left. Let's see what you do. Yeah, this is fine. This is fine. Because notice that you're doing your downtime, but now you found somebody. And you didn't even need to use your shift there. Now, this is interesting, okay? Gap closer here, right?
Yeah.
Shift in.
Okay.
Shift in, right? You got your CDs, you got your cycle. The further away the target is, the more important it is to kind of flip the script with the order of CDs. So shift in. You can use your E now, shift in, go brrr, right? They back up. Right click to pursue, right? That's exactly what they do. That's the way that's the cooldown's name. It's actually brrr, right?
All right, now this we're just trying.
It's fine. I will say this character, impossible, impossible. Seriously rough. That's his biggest strength is his repositioning, I think, compared to the other strategists.
Definitely.
Or strategists. Okay. Downtime for uptime, right? You were waiting, and look at where you're at. This is beautiful. Beautiful.
And I
now,
know Strange is to the right. I think I just saw him, right? Did I just see him?
Yeah, you did. Briefly. Let's see what you do. Because you got options here. You could go for that Strange. You could dash and pull one of these strategists in. There's even that high ground where that Punisher is going that you can use that jump pad here.
Yeah.
And just use your right click and dash up here. And then ruin his day. They all drop. And then you could set up your next dive dropping down behind them. Right? This is kind of like that creativity of approach here. Yes. You don't need a gap closer because you've staged really well. And by staging, I mean you've positioned, right? So this should be right-click, shift that storm. Or right-click, get that Luna. You'd go to her left.
I might still go for Strange. I don't know. I guess I went for Storm.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, the cycle is right. It's just the target's hard to hit because of the hovering, right? Now, downtime for uptime. Next step, right? Don't just, you got 12 seconds, you got 11 seconds of downtime here. What's the next step? Do you go left again? Do you go high ground?
Oh, left, definitely left.
But you see this proximity here is no bueno, right? This is gonna suck. So like, this is where I want you to reposition. Where's your proximity here? Where's your proximity without you dying while you're waiting for your seed? To the right, right? You ready for this one? Yeah. Same thing. Up.
Okay. Yeah.
Up and sit.
I think I tried. I might have missed. I don't know. No, I went up. I don't know what I was doing.
That's okay.
I was using the cart for cover.
Yep. That's often okay, but it's free value, right? To take top, right? I don't think again that this is going to win the fight. I think the big thing is that you had your cycle and you missed your cycle, which it happens. But yeah.
But then this Strange overreacts again.
Yeah. The problem here is can you get to him?
Yeah, I got 4 seconds.
Okay. So this is where you're too married to your combo. What should be the combo here, given the distance?
Left from here?
Yeah, from here. So what should be the order of your cooldowns from here? You've got your damage reduction. You need to do a lot of damage to this guy. How do you do it?
Well, I mean, I can do the right mouse click and then the shift for that extra height. Still
it's too far. Too far, right? Because you're going to dash and you're not going to be able to get to him. I mean, you can see it because that's what you do. Watch. Right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't work.
So, I don't know.
Use your shift to close. Remember, shift for gap close.
Shift first. Okay.
Shift for gap close, right? Now, the optimal thing is to pull him out of position, but the thing is he's already out of position, and you can't reach him, right? So basically, the simplest way of thinking about it is when they're too far, shift as a gap close if you need to go. If you're close, do that right-click and shift. That's it.
All right.
Because the reality here is when you use your shift, it's not just for repositioning. It's to gap close, yeah. But remember, you get your Fury Claws off of that too, right? So if you use your shift here to get close to that strange, that's your highest damage output is right afterwards. We go, wah, 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 right? So you don't need to pull him out of position. He's already out of position, and you can't even get to him, right? So the number one thing for you to do is to get on top of this guy. And for the right click, you're being like, oh, I'm gonna dash and I'm gonna slide. You can't. It's too far. And so there's a real danger here of you dying. And finally you get it, but my goodness gracious, that took you a while, right?
I think I overvalued the pull versus just getting there.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say you overvalue it. It's recognizing when you can get it and when you can't.
Gotcha.
If the target's too far away, you're not going to be able to get it. So you either need to set up a flank and sneak up behind him, or you just need to shift to close the gap. That's all there is to it.
He could have killed my rocket while I'm sitting there trying to...
Yep. That's it exactly. So it's all about that gap close and playing around your CDs. There's nothing you can do right now, so you should already be setting up for next engage. Now, you don't have a ton of scouting here. We can see through walls, but that's cheating. So with where you generally know where they should be, how can you set up your angle? Where's your next setup?
High ground.
High ground, yes.
Just waiting.
High ground and wait. Now you got it. So you're going to sit here, and then you got so many options. You can listen. You can peek out. Okay, these guys are too far, so maybe I can sit.
And I think I have my ultimate, too.
Yeah. So you got all sorts of things. You could even hide around in here. You could maybe swing around to this building here. Remember, again, it goes back to downtime for uptime. Use that downtime to set up your next engage here. And then you're going to use that ultimate here. I love this. Use that cover. You could even dash to cover there if you'd like to. Sure. Gap close. You are able to use your shift now. Let's see what you do with it. Bam. Yeah, sure.
Because I knew they didn't have a tank.
Yeah,
if
sure.
I build up my fury a little bit, and I saw two squishies, so...
Now, this is interesting. You've done something, I don't know if it's on purpose or not, but what you've actually done is you've saved your shift.
Yeah.
So you could go in now, slam down, everyone's going to focus, you could just shift right out. Because you're thinking, I don't need to shift because I got my ultimate to do the same job for me. So then I can actually 180, get out of Dodge right now. You see that?
Yeah.
Now, question here. You got a gap close, right? You either need to get out to get to cover, or you need to get on top of this Luna. You need to get on top of her now.
Shift.
You shift, right? Shift first. Either shift to that high ground and get out to safety, play it safe, or hey, I've got my passive. We're pushing up. I'm going to go. Don't right-click at this Luna and just stare at it and just swing at her, and you can't reach it.
I think I overvalue that right-click. Oh, no, I guess I went in.
But you see, it's like there's these moments where you're just kind of sitting in the open for a long period of time because you got to get to cover. You got to get on top of that Luna, or you got to get out, right?
I haven't shifted yet.
I think you were thinking, I don't need it. I think is what you were thinking. Gap close, pull. Yes, there's that combo. I mean, that's fine. That was all right. Basically, the way to look at this fight is it's like once you killed the Hela, I forget who it was, the Hela, right? We needed you to be contributing quickly. We needed you to get out, quickly get your HP back and go back in. Or we need you to quickly close the gap in that Luna and finish her off. Didn't happen. Downtime, they are able to restabilize and kind of come back in and win the fight off of that. All right, let's take some notes here. So give me 1 second.
Sure.
Like my next session, know that we're running a little bit behind here. Okay, so Wolverine. We talked a lot about training, schedule, habits, maybe some adjustments to how you're warming up here.
Mm-hmm.
What were the main takeaways here? We talk about tempo. What's the deal with tempo?
I just have to be more patient.
Mm-hmm.
More patient, and then use abilities to get positioning as well. I do remember waiting for the E. I could use abilities to do that. And me personally, I think I overvalue that right shift because it's a low cooldown. I think I can use it, but then sometimes I'm chasing after people. I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I had it. So definitely shift to close the distance more often.
To close the distance when your target is
It's far away.
Yeah, because it's like, the optimal simple gameplay loop is short off angle, pull people out of position. But what if they're far away? What are you going to do? What if you didn't have time to do that downtime for uptime and rotate onto them, right? You got to think about like the things that Shift does is not just the repositioning people, but also quickly repositioning you and then putting in your highest DPS uptime, which is that, again, the wop, 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 wop. I'm going to say that for the last time, right?
Yeah,
So it's like, you gap close with that. Man. Yeah, you gap close. And then the best part about it is if you gap close with Shift, you're not dead, right? Because you still have that right click to disengage if you need to, right? So obviously, the simple gameplay loop is right-click, reposition with Shift, right-click, reposition with Shift. But what if something is too far away? And I think that's where you need to flip the script with how you're using your abilities to be able to gap close and just be able to put out consistent pressure. Okay, these are the big ones. Like, this is the simplest, most important thing. That downtime for uptime, use the downtime to reposition yourself. So this is kind of a 2-on-1 because, number one, you were oftentimes trying to constantly do things and you just needed to chill. But during that chill time, I also wanted you to set up your next position. Proximity with your positioning, use that downtime wisely. Right. And I think that's kind of first and third point. They are kind of the same, maybe different ways of framing it. But it's not just about positioning improvement, but also about being okay with not doing damage all the time. And we talked about that with stats, right? That's the nature of things. Like, you look at a character like Punisher, he's kind of always contributing, right? And Wolverine, huge spike in value.
Yeah, from Ash, it's like even when my team's dead, I can put in a couple shots here and there. I might get a headshot or something.
Yep, exactly.
It's like you just have to be more patient.
Yep, exactly. Last thing I'll emphasize is, as always, just be aware of your training schedule and set realistic expectations. So I would love for you to go into whatever game that you are with Wolverine and focus on one of these points. Focus on how am I getting close? How can I safely close the distance from where they're positioned? Remember, you don't just memorize. You roll out and go, okay, they're positioned this way, so I can set up this angle or this, use the payload here or use that flank there. Next game, maybe the next day, you practice looking for gap closing opportunities. Am I using the right combo, right click into Shift or Shift into right click? Just practicing them individually, right? I think that's kind of like the ultimate goal is that, like, we want to win the game, but like Overwatch, there isn't really a way to practice or drill these things like there is with sports in real life, right? So you kind of have to treat the scrimmage. Well, actually, that's what it is. You have to treat the game like a scrimmage. You're like, I'm got to be willing to, experiment a little bit with certain specific aspects of my kit, even if it means that I might make some mistakes, just for the long run of improvement. That's really what makes you a better player in a hero shooter. So, okay, any questions? I know there's a lot of information that we went through.
No, this is all good.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. I think that didn't go too badly.